For more than a decade, the automotive world has been locked in a heated argument. Turbochargers versus displacement, efficiency versus raw power, downsizing versus tradition. Many claim the V8 was living on borrowed time, too big, too thirsty, too outdated for a modern world, obsessed with emissions and efficiency. Analysts predicted its extinction. Engineers quietly prepared for its funeral. And then Ford did the unthinkable. They didn't downsize. They didn't hybridize. They didn't apologize. Instead, Ford built one of the largest naturally aspirated gasoline V8s south of the modern era, 7.3-liter powerhouse that didn't just challenge the debate. It ended it. This is the story of how Ford SC 73 liters V8, nicknamed Godzilla, silenced critics, stunned experts, and redefined what a modern V8 could be. By the late 2010s, engine design had become predictable. Smaller displacement, more turbos, more complexity. Manufacturers chased numbers on paper, boost pressure, efficiency charts, emissions graphs, while quietly sacrificing longevity, simplicity, and soul. Even Ford wasn't immune. EcoBoost engines dominated headlines, and for good reason. They were powerful, efficient, and technologically impressive. But behind the scenes, Ford engineers were listening to a very different group of voices. Fleet owners, heavy-duty operators, engine builders, mechanics who had to keep engines alive for 300,000 miles, and they all said the same thing. Give us something simple. Give us something strong. Give us something that lasts. So Ford went back to basics, but with modern intelligence. The 7.3 LV8 was never meant to be nostalgic. It was meant to be dominant. Designed primarily for super duty trucks, commercial vehicles, and extreme duty applications. This engine wasn't chasing horsepower records. It was engineered for brutal reliability and effortless torque. Under the hood, it delivered over 430 horsepower and 475 pounds-ft of torque. But numbers alone don't explain its impact. What made experts pause was how Ford achieved it. No turbochargers, no complex valvetrain tricks, no fragile high-rev tuning. Instead, Ford used a massive bore spacing, a deep skirt cast iron block, pushrod architecture refined with modern materials, a camshaft designed for low-end torque and durability. It was old school in concept but revolutionary in execution. When the first technical breakdowns emerged, engineers and analysts noticed something unusual. Ford wasn't designing an engine for marketing slides. They were designing an engine for abuse. The 7.3 liters V8 runs at relatively low RPMs, which drastically reduces internal stress. Its large displacement allows it to make power without forcing air through turbines or pushing components to their limits. One respected powertrain analyst put it simply, this engine isn't trying to be clever, it's trying to be unstoppable. And that philosophy resonated for years. Turbocharged engines dominated the conversation. They promised better efficiency and higher output from smaller packages. But real-world users began noticing the trade-offs. Turbo heat management issues, long-term reliability concerns, expensive repairs outside warranty, inconsistent power delivery under heavy load. Ford's 7.3 LV8 responded with something radical. Consistency. Torque arrives instantly. Power builds predictably. Heat stays manageable. Maintenance stays simple. No lag. New surprises. For towing, hauling, and industrial use, experts agreed this mattered more than peak numbers. Perhaps the strongest endorsement didn't come from Ford at all. It came from aftermarket engine builders. Within months of release, the 7.3 LV8 became one of the most sought-after swap engines in America. Why? Because it's overbuilt. Builders discovered the block could handle massive power increases without internal reinforcement. Naturally aspirated builds soared past factory numbers. Forced induction builds crossed 1,000 horsepower with minimal modification. Suddenly, this work truck engine was outperforming purpose-built performance motors. One engine builder famously said, "Ford accidentally gave us the best V8 platform of the decade." The nickname Godzilla wasn't chosen by Ford. It was earned, because once this engine entered the conversation, everything else felt smaller. Chevrolet's big blocks, legendary but aging, Rams, Hemi, powerful but complex, high-strung turbo engines, fast but fragile. The 7.3 LV8 didn't need to shout. Its presence alone ended arguments. Experts now agree on something once thought impossible. There is still a place for large displacement engines if they're engineered correctly. Ford proved that modern emission standards, durability, and raw displacement don't have to be enemies. They showed that simplicity can be advanced, reliability can be innovative, power doesn't need complexity to be impressive, and most importantly, they reminded the industry that real-world performance matters more than lab statistics. Beyond engineering, the 7.3 LVA reignited something emotional. It restored confidence among enthusiasts who felt left behind by downsizing trends. It reassured workers whose livelihoods depend on engines that start every morning, no matter the load. And it sent a message: the V8 isn't obsolete. It just needed someone brave enough to defend it.